Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pranali Parikh. As Coretta said, I'm an urban designer working in Derby. By the time the slides work its way out, just a little bit of introduction. Born, brought up in India, and if the slides work, you will see a fantastic family home I grew up in. There it is. This talk today is about interactive cities, how we human beings interact with each other, with the places and environment around us, with the architecture, and how cities help us creating and harnessing the power of interaction. So my journey from this fantastic family home in the old city of Ahmedabad to the very creative architectural practice of Doshi at Sangath, to the corporate heights of Birmingham, culminating in Derby, and here we are. So why talking about cities? Well, we all know that almost 75 to 80% of the world's population will be living in urban environments, cities somewhere else in the world by 2050. And that has its own challenges, that has its lots of problems associated with it. And cities generally are known to suck resources out of the environment around us. Particularly, another big challenge is the technology, and Nigel talked about in his talk that it makes us isolated in the middle of the crowd. While it helps us connecting and talking to the people elsewhere in the world, sometimes we don't know who is sitting next to us in an event like this, and how we tackle this isolation. Can architecture and urban design help? And cities have always attracted multitudes of people, and these multitudes of people bring with them the multitudes of ideas, and cities become the places where ideas are shared, where ideas are exchanged. And when people interact with architecture, it becomes a place. But when people interact with other people and exchange their ideas, a spirit of a place gets born, and that's what causes what I call a genius loci of a place. And we know New York is New York and Paris is Paris, and everybody wants to go there, is because they have this respective genius loci of their own. And here are the examples of Udaipur, Paris, New York, Amsterdam. Such a variety, such a diversity of experiences, and such a diversity of architectural form they offer. So that's what cities offer: the diversity, the choice, and interaction with lots of human beings. Street performances is one of the good examples. There are lots of elements that trigger this interaction in street performances, whether it's a chanced or a planned event. It provides an opportunity for people to interact, people to participate with other people and share ideas together. But all this kind of interaction causes action that everybody wants to capture in whichever way they can. Markets have a very important role, even in today's internet society, where everybody wants to order things on internet. Markets still are quite important places where not just the goods and money, but also ideas are exchanged. And historically, towns like Derby has been a marketplace and has been a market town which has become an ideas exchange. So. With markets comes, my association of markets, and particularly our maps of different places are associated with lots of sensory experiences, and smells, noise, everything is a part of it. And just wanted to share this example of a square in my home city, Ahmedabad, where, it's surrounded by a jeweler's shop, which becomes, but the square becomes a kind of a grazing ground in the morning, where lots of grass sellers come in because people buy grass to feed the cows. It's a very typical Hindu tradition, and the whole place is just full of cow dung and smell of freshly cut grass, which is quite surreal. And then by 10 o'clock, the traders move in and they start trading in gold and silver. Then about afternoon time, the fruit and vegetable sellers move in, and the whole smell of the sweat and the rotting vegetables and fruits, and the petrol fumes fill up the air. And by 8 o'clock, when all the trading has stopped, the fast food stalls move in, and it becomes a whole big open air fast food food hall. And the smell of food from all over different parts of India just fills the air, and people from all over come to enjoy it. And this is just an example of how one place provides so many different opportunities for different sensory experiences, different people to come together, doing different activities at different times of the day. And this is another our own example of London Exhibition Road. Food and music is that great combination that always makes people interact. And well, it's not just we human, we don't just interact with humans in cities, it's also so many animals and birds who have called or made our cities their own home, and they provide a kind of an interaction with the nature in the middle of the hustle and bustle of the cities. But also there is something quite serene about having lots of wildlife around us, because they are so indifferent to the whole traffic, the people, or in a way kind of they start becoming part of our life. And it's not just this indifference is shared not just by the animals, but also as humans. We like creating our own urban oases, our quiet places to spend a quiet moment with the people we love. But this personalization and creating our own niche, making our own mark in the city is kind of represented in so many different ways, whether it's a graffiti or architects leaving their name on the building. It conveys a message of who we are and what we do. And well, it is always, and it has been for a long time, kind of used by multinational organizations and people selling their brand, product marketing. Cities become a kind of a fabric for all sorts of marketing activities, sometimes positive as well, when organizations use it as a big to kind of advertise their events and just getting a communication going in the city. This is talking about personalization. This is just an example of someone has made their home on top of a rooftop in a forgotten corner of a shopping center in Paris. This is how people find their own niches within the multitude, quite random, but that's what happens. In talking about roof spaces, this is, I really love these examples of so many different activities happening on the rooftops. People playing cricket, a wedding pavilion is being prepared, and flying kites, preparing cow dung for fueling, or just sun-drying papadums and all sorts of things. So why that kind of interaction happens with roof spaces is because there is no space on the ground, no space in the cities or open spaces because of the whole density of this part of Jodhpur in urban India. And that's what cities do. They make us, they push us for resources, and people start thinking innovative ways, and this is the way architecture helps. But not just sky and sunshine does it, it's also water. Wherever you put water in urban spaces, it makes people to interact with it. These are just a whole range of activities that I have kind of captured. My office was just next to Cathedral Green in Derby, and it's just over a period of time you see so many people using just one space in so many different ways. It's the people not just interacting again with other people, but with the space itself, and just creating a very positive vibe. And sports, skating or skateboarding, or even free running, that helps triggering that interaction. Public art has the similar role in urban environments, and this particular place in Bologna in Italy, where people's movement in a big open square is triggering projection or changing the projection on top of a historic facade. And it's the architecture, the people, art, music, technology, lighting, everything coming together to create this interaction. But technology, with all its faults, it can be used quite positively, and this image is in Birmingham Library, which is very recently done, are a great example of how it has been used very positively and creatively and constructively in harnessing that power and just helping people to exchange, access and share information and ideas. Again, technology brings people together, not just to play but to work as well, and co-working places, particularly like this as Fragate Studios, have quite an important place in today's society. Bringing together people in, cities do that in quite a lot of contrasting ways, and it brings together lots of ironies and contradictions of urban life. This particular slide in India, it's showing rich elite apartment blocks in the background, which are served by the people working in the organically grown illegal slums in the foreground, and how it's the two completely different worlds come together in the cities. But it's where the two different worlds meet, on the edge of it, on the periphery of it, that the whole action happens. And these pictures are taken just outside those gated communities, where lots and lots of different traders and craftsmen have made it their home. They are living out on the street, creating their own little goods, lots of different things that find their way to the big urban retail markets in the urban centers, and that's the kind of opportunities that comes out of a very negative, very impactful social conditions. But when people, and multitudes of people come together, lots of joined networks start taking place. It provides opportunity for communities to develop and social networks to take place, and people come together to help people who need help. And those kind of community development causes sometimes even revolutions, particularly the recent cases we have seen in the Middle East, in Kiev, where people in this kind of big cities have come together to start a revolution, to demand change. And that is what I think is quite a underestimated impact of multitudes of people coming together. And people coming together doesn't always have to be a violent revolution. Like in the example of Olympics, the power of voluntary activism was harnessed really well and very positively, very constructively to create a great event. So what do all these ideas and interactive elements mean in terms of Derby? Well, Derby has its own challenges. That there are problems with the aging population, there are problems with the dying retail market because of the technology's impact on it, and there are problems with Derby being cut off, the city centre being cut off from the peripheral suburban areas, and how does Derby use all these examples elsewhere and learn from it to kind of reinvigorate and regenerate itself. There are lots of things going on. It is kind of an apparent need for Derby to be to create that center of destination, to remain being a destination for people to come in, just to keep going. These are just some of the examples that are actually being taking place, and all these pictures you see here are some of the very creative, very proactive projects happening, which are providing people the places for work, places to live, and places for creative and entrepreneurial people to come together. And we are using technology in the most positive way to help us achieve this. There are well, super connected Derby is the way I would club it all together. But there are people in this audience, my colleague Joe and Neil, and well, I would call them all their buddies, are driving a whole kind of digital revolution right now, where there is public access to Wi-Fi is being provided, so it creates another layer for people to interact. Technology is a part of our everyday need, everyday society. It cannot be isolated. So how can we harness to get it to a different, to make the cities operate to a different level? The wayfinding signs have all got Wi-Fi code, which RFID codes, which give you an extra information than that is there just in front of you. So it provides an extra layer. It gives an added information to the normal activities and things that you do in the cities. And all the different elements and triggers of interaction that we talked are actually being applied and designed for in the next couple of years, and the implementation has already started. People are coming together and taking part in lots of different ways, whether it is through different community initiatives or through social media. People are using technology, physical spaces, and social interaction to engage and to create a new kind of center, a new urban center, a new genius loci is being developed. And this is, it's a kind of a tripartite action. Interactive cities cannot happen without physical, social, and technological efforts coming in from all different directions. And that's where the hope is Derby to be a very interactive city, but it cannot be done on its own. So it needs people like this, events like this, audiences like this, and places like Fragate Studios to all to come together to make it all happen. Thank you.